Welcome to Total Network Operations, the podcast and project that's dedicated to network operators who push all the packets everywhere in every data center across the world. I'm your host, Scott Robon, and we have a very special episode of Teen Ops on the road today here at Nokia's SR Experts event in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's only like a balmy 100 degrees outside Fahrenheit. So we're very happy to be here in the air conditioning. You know that we've talked about more and more data center networking issues on Total Network Operations. And we have a really unique opportunity today to hear about a major migration for a very, very large enterprise customer, Nokia, who's been moving through legacy sets of data center networking equipment onto their new EDA data center networking system. To talk about that today, I've got two very special guests, Mike Bushong, who does data center stuff at Nokia, and Pushpendra Pandey. Pushpendra, you are, wow, I've really messed this up already, but you're the global networking services leader at Nokia. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
You want to give just a little more introduction of yourselves? Mike, I'll ask you to go first and then to Pushpendra.
Sure. So I lead our data center business globally, spend most of my time on the road. I have the somewhat dubious distinction to be global services, companion pass on Southwest, gold on American, and gold on Emirates in the same year.
We already heard your travel itinerary for the rest of 2025, and I can't complain about travel anymore at all. So,
yeah, no, it gives me a good perspective, though. I talk to a lot of folks in a lot of different countries, all different markets, and so I've got a good idea of what people say they're going through. And Pushpendra here, he has a good perspective on what people actually go through, and the difference between us is really the difference between theory and practice.
Yeah, tell us what your role is and what puts you in the position that Mike just talked about.
Thank you, Scott. So I head the global network infrastructure services for Nokia. Basically, Nokia is an enterprise spread over the world, right? We have around 200 plus offices, and we have backbones connecting all those offices based on our 750 routers. And then we have, data center all over the world. And, we have around 17 data center now, and we have big data centers covering in Americas, covering APAC and European continents and as well. So, yeah, the data center is just one aspect of my overall role. We have the backbone, then we have the office segments and all that, which we manage for Nokia, connectivity to the partner, connectivity to the internet. So everything that is related to the network for Nokia Enterprise is under my organization.
So no pressure running the network for a networking company.
It's a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
Even a small outage is our big issue because we are a networking company, and more than a networking company, we are a telco networking company. So, the standards for enterprise are different compared to telcos. But here, the expectation is that we run our enterprise network like telcos. So, with minimal to zero outages, 5 nines, right? The word we talk in telcos. We try to bring our network to that level, and we have been fortunate with some of the investment we have done that, our backbone, especially the wide area network, has been able to deliver those kind of KPIs.
So I would just say from the outside, right, and having been a Nokia employee and never having had a network issue as a Nokia employee, thank you very much, you have kind of the worst of both worlds. The expectations to meet 5 nines service level expectations, but all the adds, moves, changes that you have in any enterprise network of the size you just scoped out. So lots we could talk about there, but let's focus on what's happening in data center. So as we were prepping for this, you said, let's go back like 18 months to when this really got started. Can you talk about what the motivators were for you to start this migration project and how you did take your first steps?
Yeah, and maybe I can go a little bit further than 18 months, right? Just to give you a history of why we started this, right? And what transpired in last 18 months of the journey with the new solution. So, Nokia has a combination of many other companies, right? So we have gone through merger and acquisitions over multiple years, right?
Sure.
We recently, like not this one, like a couple of years back, we got in Alcatel-Lucent and Nokia, right? We have two big companies, and we ended up getting multiple solution in our data center. So, we got Omni switches coming from Alcatel-Lucent side. Nokia was having
Sorry, Omni switches from, yes, I'm like, I haven't heard that as a switch brand in a long time.
It's
So,
the Alcatel-Lucent enterprise, right? So, and then we got Nokia, which was mainly on the HP or the data centers, right? And 7 years ago, we decided to transform some of these data center by building the data center from Cisco Nexus.
Sure.
Right. So we built our 6 major data centers, so 2 in Americas, 2 in Europe, and 2 in India is Cisco. So we ended up with, as I mentioned to you, a mix of HP, mix of Omni switches, mix of Cisco's, right? And it was a nightmare, to tell you the least, right? We have been managing this skill to manage those data center, right? 3 different skills, some of them going end of service life. And we started having these troubles with outages lasting for 8 hours, 9 hours, right? People having like literally no idea, troubleshooting things like Omni switches. Maybe we divested that company long back, and we have been USL for 20 years, right? And it was not sustainable model for us, right? So we decided on our data center strategy. So like every enterprise, right? The cloud was just booming around, right? So
sure.
We took a more methodical approach, right? Instead of going all cloud, we thought hybrid is a more prudent model to go forward, right? So we obviously wanted to move applications which are friendly to the cloud, but we have crown jewels which we don't want to put in the cloud, and then we have certain applications which we certainly don't want to put in the cloud because they'll be damn expensive to run, right? So with that in mind,
Scale out. Yes.
So,
It has to scale out.
we came up with the hybrid strategy, right? And then we looked at our ecosystem, and we thought, okay, no, 3 vendors, not sustainable. And we were kind of struggling, right?
Let me ask you to pause on that for just a second. So 3 vendors is that spread is a lot. I just want to ping Mike on comparative points. How does this compare with the level of complexity that you see with many of the customers you talk to?
Depends on who you're talking to. So I always ask people, what do you think is, or who owns the most complex networks in the world? And what most people say is Google, Microsoft, Meta. Pushpendra's right. I mean, the most complex networks in the world are enterprises with a bunch of legacy stuff.
Sure.
With decisions that go back usually decades. With CapEx budgets that aren't necessarily particularly friendly. At some point, you're kind of constrained. So this is, a tale as old as time. You get transitions, decisions that were a few, let's say, predecessors before you, and then you're left to try to figure out what do you do going forward. Like that is hyper common.
Right. So you're not alone, right?
Yep.
Mike, who's, he's been everywhere with Johnny Cash. So you have these outage issues, you have the complexity of diverse infrastructure. Keep going from there.
Yeah. So, we decided to venture into this, next generation data center build, right? And, for us, our principles were very straightforward, right? We want a solution which is simple to deploy, right? Simple to configure and simple to operate. Operate means, we can do small migrations, changes to infrastructure, software upgrades, easily, right? Without needing, CCIEs, SRAs, sitting day in, day out, making those changes, right? And with that, we started to evaluate certain products from different companies, right? We looked into, obviously, because we are an enterprise organization, we are not necessarily bound to our own products, right? We obviously want to have our own products wherever possible, but our main mandate is to run Nokia Enterprise, and that needs the work.
However you get that done. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And that was the reason 7 years ago we had to deploy Cisco, because we didn't have a good solution which fitted our need for Nokia, right? And, we started evaluating the different products which we have and the new products offering in the market, and we were particularly impressed with the storyline which was coming out of our SLX solution. And obviously it was in the infancy at that time. Products were out. I mean, we always were very confident about our hardware ability because we are building these massive 750 routers. Running these telco networks. So I had no doubt about the hardware capability of our devices, and the main worries for us was like, whether it's going to be automated enough, because, it's not just hardware being fancy. I want to make sure that it can be easily operated as well, right? And that's where, we started to do a pilot, so we had a data center, dual data center in Europe, which was built by HP during the older time, right? And we wanted to close that data center and build a new one to move all those applications.
Okay.
And now those applications, just to give you an idea, right? They were running our critical factory. So we have a big factory in Chennai. We have a big factory in Oulu, Finland, and they run our 24/7, the MN product lines.
Sure.
And those applications were sitting there, and
Mobile networks.
for mobile networks, right? Yeah, and we were having challenges with that data center, with a lot of outages, which we could never find out the root cause and everything, right? So we thought, okay, let's pilot this solution, which we have got from the product line, and see how it works.
And when you're running manufacturing operations and you have a data center outage that keeps you from producing product, that's bad.
Not just bad. I mean, I just got an email from our the product the factory head, right? And they sent me an email outright with this. Okay, every hour of outage in the factory cost you X $100K loss, right? So if there is a 4-hour outage, you're probably losing $500K or 1,000, a million every year, right? I just don't. It's around that number, right? So that's the warning we always get, right? So these applications are like 24/7. You can't afford to lose them, right?
Yep.
So, and we were struggling in the old solution, and we went through, I think, Michael and the team, right, at this solution, and we decided to go for it, right? Obviously we did some POC of our own, but overall, the theme of the solution, which was based on the automation journey, right, and it was clicking to our problem statement, right? My problem statement: how easily can I can operate? How can easily I can make changes,
right,
deploy, and I think all the promises from this product were matching to our expectation. So we went ahead and deployed the solution 18 months, I guess, ago in HE6 Italia. It's a dual data center, and we moved over most of the application running on the legacy HP data centers. It took us 6 to 8 months
to complete the migration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, this is how it takes. As Mike mentioned, right? We have legacy applications, right? Enterprises are always baggage of history, right? We have some application which are running on VAX platform. I mean, I don't know, probably have forgot about it, right?
In college, in the late 80s, I was a VAX VMS user.
And we still have applications running on there, so you can understand what kind of and
probably programmable controllers running manufacturing operations and Fortran on VAX.
It runs the museum.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And you can remove them because they have critical data and something is running out of them, right? So, we took around 6 to 8 months to migrate those applications. It took us some pain, obviously, and not because of our solution, is because when you have to do migration, you have to make sure the stuff is moving from the old solution to new solution. We made it work, and the biggest surprise factor for me is I've been getting data from my team for last 1 year, right? We have 80% reduction in the incident count.
80%.
80% reduction. I don't want to give too much weight to this number because we have not done the full migration, right? We are now starting the full migration journey,
right?
Covering our 6 global data centers, and all regional data centers is going to be ending this year. But that's filthy encouraging. Sorry, pardon my word, right?
No. It's make sure we beep that out.
Yeah,
it's filthy encouraging.
It's amazing. I mean, number of incidents. It makes so much difference. I can use those resources to make new data centers, right? I can use those resources to build something new automation for us. They're not sitting solving those problems, right? Which used to happen, taking hours and hours of our time. So I'm particularly very happy with how things went so far. We're obviously now moving to a next chapter where we want to roll out this solution to our global data centers.
Before we go there, let me just poke on, I know the 80% is anecdotal, and you just said you don't want to hold it all to that because it was just the initial trial. But you as we were preparing for this, you mentioned some specifics on what went away. Where did that 80% reduction come from? What were the biggest contributors?
Yeah, I mean, just to, that's a good question. I can give you one particular example, right? I just don't want to name application, but it's a SAP application, which is very critical for manufacturing our products, right? And this application is very old, very, very old. Like, I mean, 20 years old, you can call it, right? And they're very, adamant kind of application. So, if you kind of lose a heartbeat, like us between server and database, right? Typical application model. If you lose a heartbeat for a couple of seconds, the database is going to go down. Okay. So suppose there is a blip in your network, right? That for 2 seconds, the database will go down. It's going to take you upwards of 2 hours to recover this application. Wow. And we have been seeing this in the old infrastructure for like almost a month. Every month, right? And we tried everything, hardware upgrade, everything, nothing solved it. And once we migrated this application to our SR Linux data center, 80% reduction, you can say that I have not even heard a single word from my factory coming saying, today this particular SAP application is not up.
Thank you, Pushpendra, for keeping on up. I always get all those tickets that were just thanking me for keeping the internet up. So,
my boss, the CDO of Nokia, he tells me, when you're running an electricity company, nobody thanks you that you have electricity 24/7.
Yep.
Nobody thanks us that the network is 24/7 because I want to grant it.
Pushpendra, thank you. Just to be clear.
But I think what I'm saying is, we feel happy if nobody complains.
Sure.
That's our achievement. So we have not got a complaint. That's an achievement for us.
So that is quite an achievement, and it gave you enough confidence to take the next step. But notice you didn't bite it all off at once, right? You took a very measured first step. So how did you scope out, okay, what is the bigger migration going to look like?
Yeah.
And what pain points were you specifically trying to address?
To tell you the truth, bigger migration is going to have our piece of challenges. Our biggest challenges are existing infrastructure, right? The Cisco Nexus, right? It's way too complicated. You need real, I don't know, not network experts. You need people who built it to be here 7 years down the line to migrate it, because it's so complicated. The people we have right now, they're equally good, but they're finding challenges. Like, to give you an example, in last, 3 to 4 weeks, we have created 3-4 outages in Cisco infrastructure while building a migration path to SR. That's how bad and how complex these networking solutions are.
Right.
It's going to be a challenge, but, the light at the end of the tunnel is if you're able to make this migration. I'm looking forward to the day of what I had faced in 18 months, right? At data centers that, I don't have to get into these calls where, we are having these massive outages, and then our people are scared to make changes. These literally simple changes, adding a VLAN to migrate one server. And these good people are scared that this might create an after effect somewhere else and create an outage.
And probably the simplest network change you can implement. I'm just going to add a VLAN here.
Yep. And I just want to, sorry to interject, but I just want to compliment it, right? Since we built this data center in Helsinki, we are consistently migrating stuff. We're making the same changes there, probably much more than theirs, right? The one new data center, 0 outages. We just go ahead, run the CI/CD pipeline, right? Look into what the change is going to do, push the button, done, no outage. They're equally complicated, not complicated, complex. But it's just that, these guys have abstracted the complexity of network so much to our operators that they feel confident that this change is going to only be like this, and they just go ahead and confidently implement it.
So I actually had some great conversations with folks on your team that have done a lot of that work, and it's pretty impressive. And, hint, hint, would love to get them on a future episode of the podcast where we can dive into those details. But so what other things were you trying to eliminate specifically? That architectural abstraction certainly helped. How did you arrive at that conclusion? Like, this is something we need to do. Was it something that was driven by the solution, or was it in parallel to the solution?
You mean the
abstraction work that you
abstraction work of the solution? I think this is where I believe the enterprises will be moving to, right? We need to be intelligent enough to abstract the complexity of network, right? We need to make these networks as a code, right? What we call is the IOps model, right? Or DevOps model, or you can NetOps model, you can name whatever you want, right?
You can make up any label that
Any
you like.
label.
Yeah, but more software-centric approach to provisioning infrastructure.
Exactly. Because that's what a general person knows, right?
Right.
The moment you throw the BGPs, OSPFs and all that, right, to them, they get scared.
Right.
And I say the intelligence of the product is you abstract that complexity to the people operating. Remember, enterprises are not telco customers.
Right.
We are a networking company. We have a lot of experts. We can manage. But you go to the enterprise of the world, the medical companies, insurance companies, they know zero about the network. For them, the data center is to deploy applications, right? Tomorrow they want to add more application. It should be simple to add a interface, deploy application. If you tell them that they have to do this VLAN, this BGP, this OSPF, they're going to be lost. And that's where the value comes in. And I believe that's what these guys have done, in the SR Linux solution, abstracting those complexities. Especially with the the digital twin concept which they have implemented.
Sure.
We have seen that working real time. Though it's not as much productized in the old version of the monitoring system which you're using FSS, I believe we're going to see more of it. When we are going to do more migration with the era.
Let's just bounce this off Mike a little bit too. Again, you've heard, the pain felt for the internal enterprise network. How does this compare to other data points you're getting from other customers all over the world?
So what time of year do you think networks are most stable?
Around Christmas time, end of the year.
And why?
Because nobody's touching that.
So, I mean, look, we're all complicit in building out a discipline where our stuff works best when everyone stops touching it. Like, this is so ingrained in networking that this is like literally we've built entire practice.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
And so when it's a cliche, right? No one pushes to prod on a Friday. When it's that kind of cliche, that tells you how pervasive it is. People are terrified of change. People are making a VLAN change, changing an ACL. Like, nobody wants to do anything for a couple of reasons, right? One, we don't really know what the blast radius is, so you're flying blind, right? There's no way of like pre-validating things, and so you don't know if it's going to work. And then if you do that in a company that's full of, there's two types of experts. CEOs will find any problem. Like, if you're managing their application, they will tell you there's something wrong. And engineers, right? Because I would say that the tolerance in CEOs and engineers is about the same. It's like zero tolerance. And so, like, what do you do, right? If you have an intolerant audience, right, would you make the change? Like, most
no, that's a career enhancing decision. Yeah.
So this is everywhere, right? And again, it's cliche in our industry. So I hear this from everyone. And it turns out that it's not just, by the way, enterprises. Like, I would tell you, even like on the telco side, they have some of the largest IT operations around, and they're building and they're providing connectivity for a legion of people who provide connectivity. Same problem. Yeah. So to me, it's everywhere. It's a global problem. It's the thing I'm actually interested in. I'm going to ask a question that I don't know if you were going to ask because I wasn't part of the prep piece.
Whatever you were about to ask, I'm going to say that I was going to ask that.
Exactly. So when you were talking about abstraction with a group of experts who are not used to abstraction, like, were people nervous about like kind of their skills and sort of how we're going to operate, and do they lose control? Like, how do you navigate that?
And that's a very good question, right? And that relates to also a couple of more advancement in the technology where you're building more artificial intelligence into it, right? So it's always, this apprehension, right? When you try to abstract things, move more things, network as a code, right? You will see people being scared that, okay, their jobs might be at risk, right? I think that's unfounded. I'm not just saying for the sake of saying, I believe that's a fact, right? We have seen technology evolutions, many technology evolution, .com, the industrial evolution and everything. We just became more intelligent. That's it, right? We're gonna stop doing the stuff which is machines can do it, right? The repetitive stuff,
right?
And we start doing more intelligent things, right?
Yep.
And that's how we need to forward, right? Next generation of kids who are coming, who are now growing up with AI. If you tell them to sit and start creating VLANs, right, for one interface, or start monitoring alarms just because one port went down, they're just not going to work for your company, right? You just need to give them a challenging work to do, which is, okay, go ahead and train this model, right, which we have built in to be an AI agent to solve simple problems. Complex problems will always need people, right? We will need experts to build the architecture. We will need experts to deploy the solution. And we will need those experts to train those solutions, upgrade those solutions, and advance those solutions. But we don't need experts to operate the solution. We don't need experts to make simple changes, right? Let's take that out and put the energy somewhere else.
You and some of our preparations and some of the stuff I've looked at getting ready for this conversation, like that staff burnout, like even apart from AI agentic work really helping you, like you've had other problems with burnout, frustration, workload just from, the repetitive manual stuff. Like how bad was that even before you started thinking about, AI related operations?
That's a very good question, Scott. I mean, we have this pulse survey, right, every year in Nokia.
I remember, that's right.
Right, I know. Yep. We have it every year, right? I have it in my organization. It's global, and then it comes to us, right? The worst score we get is from operation team. And their biggest complaint is burnout.
Yeah.
They're 24/7, and before their 8-hour shift starts, some problem will come, which will go on for 6 hours. And at the end of the day, they will come back to me and say, Pushpendra, this was such an easy problem if we had a better solution. So they also don't want to burn out, right? They want an intelligent tool which can help them solve problem faster. And we are giving them this tool. And we have seen in last 18 months, right, the one data center which we are building, the guys are very happy. I mean, we started with 6 people to manage that small piece of the data center, right? Now those same 6 people are going to manage the whole 18 data centers. Imagine.
Yeah.
Because we are not getting any tickets.
Right.
They're just 24/7 covering the shift to make sure nothing goes bad, right? In the meantime, they're doing our project work. But that's the beauty of making a stable infrastructure that, you're going to use them. They will be happy. They will be doing productive work. They will be monitoring your network. They will be on 24/7 shift. But, you have employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, and stakeholder satisfaction because the OpEx has gone less, right? They are cost center.
Yeah.
They're spending less to operate the infrastructure. So all in all, everybody is happy.
So take that to the broader AI ops vision that you've talked about. Like you have a dream of what needs to happen at the level 1 and level 2 engineering parts of your organization. How are you going to address that?
Yeah, I mean, that's my dream. And I believe we can reach it, right? I think it's within the reach. Maybe 5 years down the line, we could not have think of it. But now I think it is within the reach. I mean,
be specific. Like, what do you see agents doing, and how does this reduce workload for folks at that level?
Sure. I mean, I can tell you, 80 to 90% of the incident which come in the network, right? Because network is, I already mentioned to you, right? These are like electrical supplies and all that. We build so much redundancy, right? They rarely break to the point where the applications will go down, right? And 80 to 90% of the incidents come in where we have one port went down or some, memory going down, or memory is overflowing and all that. Those tickets are generally handled by our L1, L2 engineers who are like not huge experience, but like 3 to 5 year experience. They're being given an SOP to execute, right, by their senior engineers. They are in the shift. When the problem happens, they execute the SOP.
And everyone follows those SOPs exactly. No deviation.
No deviation.
Right? Nobody gets creative.
The moment the deviation has to happen, they're going to call the senior architect, right, to do the deviation. And I believe this SOP can be given to an agent to execute it.
Sure.
Right?
It's a script for automation. It's a high level. Yeah.
People never stay on script.
Right? Yeah.
And just like us.
And I think Mike made a very good point. The automation or the agents can do a more predictable job on those SOPs than human being.
Sure.
Right? Our human eyes can only read so much of SOP, right? We're going to forget about it. So that's the best use of AI. Get those L1, L2 tickets resolved automatically. Keep teaching your AI, right? Had those people teach the AI, gain the knowledge, move to next level of the competence, but you give these, monotonous work to, these agents who can resolve it for you. And here we are, we have a infrastructure which is, automated, managed for most period of the time.
Yeah.
And you still have your competent people to resolve the complex problem. You all still have them to run new projects, right? You still have time for them to think about something new, go to the newer technology, right? Instead of just scrambling with these operational issues every day.
And like your team has already proven to me that like they already know how to write small pieces of machine learning and AI agent code to do pieces of this. So they're already on a path to be able to do stuff like this.
We are starting a little bit early, right? Because
Everybody's got to start.
Exactly. So, that's one thing I've been discussing to the product team, right, from NI, that, you need to get that into the solution, right? We are building these agents to help us with,
Right.
The configuration, with the monitoring, with the observability, right? But at the end, we need to get the agents productized, which can talk to our ticketing system, right? Get it alert, do the resolution, close the alert, right? And done with it, right? So they've already started working on it. We already see initial results very positive coming out of it. But at the end, I think I'm pretty sure, you guys will pick it up, and, we'll have a solution which can be just off the shelf, right? Because again, I was repeating my point, not every enterprise is networking expert, right? Or a software expert.
Right.
They just want out-of-box solution to their problems. And, the better out-of-box solution you can offer to them, you are their partner. That's all,
We
right?
get shrink wrapped, right?
Their day-to-day work is something else. They want to run insurance company, they want to run real estate, they want to do medical business and all that. They don't want to run network. And if you can reduce the layer in their network operation, reduce the OpEx in their network operation, you take the cut out of it.
So you have this great understanding of all the enterprise objectives, including business and financial objectives, right? But you have this unique opportunity working for a networking product company. You've got some really interesting cooperation. Let's tease that out a little bit. Like both of you talk about what the back and forth has been like with what have you been asking the enterprise team for, and what have you been feeding back? What's that process look like for you?
Well, like from our point of view, he's like user number one, right? So a lot of times you craft a product with an idea of what a user might look like, and then you generalize it enough because it has to represent many users, and by the time you push it out, it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and then you end up with some diluted thing. In this case, what we have is a direct line of communication with someone who's got a very specific project, one that we all care about, we're all intimately invested in.
Sure.
It gives you very specific real-time feedback on, hey, that works or it doesn't work. Things that a lot of times don't survive customer contact. I build a platform. I don't think about what the install process is going to look like. I presume that it's software developers that have, crazy skills that are on the other side. And so you build a thing that requires maybe not a PhD, but a master's in
Lines of stitching and bespoke integration. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, why didn't you just do, why didn't the customer or the user just do this? We now have someone that, gives you a, direct feedback. This is like, we didn't think to do that. This was not our skill set. This is not the way we think about that particular problem. This is not how we're oriented. What we would like is this very specific experience. Like it just changes everything around how you build, how you test for whether it's working or not working, whether the benefits accrue. There's lots of examples, I would say, in our industry where the benefit you think you're driving isn't the benefit that the customer is realizing. And so you go out with this idea, again, with a theory, and then you find out that your product does a different thing. It's still valuable, right? But boy, that really wasn't the way we intended that to work. And so in this case, what we do is we short circuit that. We just get the direct feedback right back, which then also, by the way, tightens the innovation loops. And so we start getting, much better ideas out of the gate. And then, by the way, all of our other customers benefit from this tight interaction because Pushpendra's team is representative of the most complex enterprises on the planet.
Right.
the problems he has are not unique to Nokia. They're the same as what this entire market is going through. So every challenge that we solve for him is a problem we avoid for somebody else.
Any good, can you think of concrete examples where that short circuiting that Mike just referred to really helped you were able to give them feedback on, hey, this doesn't work the way you think it does, and here's how it really should work from an enterprise consumer's perspective, and you saw them turn that around? I know that's a lot to ask.
No. It's a very valid question, right? One of the example is this digital twin, right? And I believe when we started consuming FSS, right, initially, we didn't have a concept of digital twin built into the product.
Right.
And we deployed FSS and we started to use this concept of digital twin because we thought there is a value in it. And we productized it. We started to, run this change through a dry run process to see what the change will look like, what it's going to do in my infrastructure before applying it. And, we saw the result, very positive, because the changes were flawless. And we passed on this feedback to the product team. We said that this is going to be really valuable to enterprises because a lot of people are just worried to do changes because of this region, because it just goes blind and it can do whatever it can, right? So that they have been very kind enough to accept that feedback, and they're building that in their newer version of the EDA. Other than that, I believe another major aspect is, as Mike mentioned, that there is a difference between ideal world and the realistic world, right? The realism in enterprise is complex applications, legacy, things don't work. Not everything is microservices, Kubernetes, right? We have legacy applications.
Sure.
You're running with different interfaces.
I would say most things are not, right? The legacy is 80%.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what I bring to them,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably we are one of the biggest enterprises, 200 offices across the world, right? I mean, if you can, I challenge them that if you can turn us around, right? We have seen our problem days with 3 vendors, tickets, outages going hours and hours without predictability. If you can turn us around, you can turn around any enterprise.
Sure.
Yes, we are a networking company. We have a little bit of networking knowledge, but the kind of abstraction you can give us that I can run this operation with fewer number of people,
sure,
it's going to give confidence to any enterprise in the world that, hey, this is the new thinking.
Right.
Let's shift to this.
So if you look back over the initial pilot to today, what are a couple of your biggest lessons learned? And in particular, was there anything you were really nervous about that ended up not being a big deal or less impactful than you expected it to be?
I mean, because obviously we started run pilot, right? And last year, when we initially we thought that, okay, we are going to move some, how the enterprise naming works. We have L1 application, L2 application, L3, L4, right? L3, L4s are less complex, right? Not like in RTU, RPO of 4 hours, right? Where, you have to, there is a cost associated for every minute of outage, right? So we thought we were going to take it easy, right? But, we took a little bit of risk because we had confidence in these guys that they've built telcos. They're going to build
pressure on the product.
Yeah, they're gonna build a good solution, right? And we went ahead. We took a risk overall as a leadership, right? That we're going to migrate this data center over to it. And I was nervous because these were critical factory applications, right? If they would not have worked, I would not be here talking to you, right? So fortunately, I'm here talking, and it did work for us. That's the one thing, we took that risk, but it was a calculated risk. We had the backing from product line, and it did work out for us.
What about the photo negative of that from your side? What did you learn? Can you point to anything big that you've learned specifically from Nokia Enterprise IT Network that you didn't expect?
I think the things that they grabbed onto, so we actually ran like an internal RFP process because it gave us an opportunity to essentially scope out what was out in the market. The things that Nokia IT thought were important were not always the same things that we thought were important. Sure. They were focused a lot on like the surround. There's things like, just the support and services that are required to handle migrations. When you think about products, you sort of put a lot of emphasis behind what is the code or what is the software or what is the hardware the surrounding bits are just as important. And if you want to build out a successful product, like you have to include all of that. And a lot of the early discussions included some of these other pieces. The connectivity back into the support teams and the engineering teams, like those transactions are just as important. I mean, what we've proven in my mind is that we can build out not just products that support one of the world's largest enterprises, but we have all the other organizations where you can actually scale that up. And I promise you that there's not a single enterprise out in the world of any kind of size that their entire experience is the product, right? Like they experience the entire company. And, frankly, when you're on the product side and you're focused on the product, sometimes you lose sight of the rest of the company. I think in this case, brings those things together, and then it forces us to think through, what does the rest of the offer look like, right? How do you make it easy? Things like the, navigating skill sets and navigating OS familiarity, and figuring out how do you, make things, familiar enough that the transition's possible, but different enough that the benefits accrue. Like these are like kind of higher order. I mean, it's not quite 3D chess, but it's not, it's more complex than just here's my requirement, here's my feature.
Maybe it's Go instead of chess, but sure, it's not 3D chess.
Yeah, and sorry, I forgot to mention one important aspect where, product team took our feedback very seriously, was about building a SaaS solution for their EDA system. We as an enterprise, as a networking company, network team, right? We are not server experts, right? We don't patch servers, we don't upgrade operating systems and all that. And I said, we want to consume this application. This is fantastic, but I don't want to take the pain of upgrading the server, managing infrastructure and all that. You just abstract it for us, because this is what everybody will want, at least in the network side. And they've been, very supportive. I believe it was already in their roadmap, but we have been able to get that product out. And, we have been able to use it in our Chicago data center, and with very good results so far.
Excellent.
So that was a good feedback we gave to our product team, and they were able to turn it around.
So in 60 seconds or less, what does the next 6 to 9 months look like? What are the big things that you have to accomplish next?
Next to 6 to 9 months, all my 7 global data centers, we remove Cisco from our ecosystem.
Okay.
Migrate all our applications, which are huge number of enterprise applications, to our SR Linux data center, and showcase to our leadership that, and also obviously to the world that this solution is really innovative. I think we are on the right track.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best with all of that. If either of you want to point people to more about what's happening with this project, with the product suite, where are the best places for people to go to learn more?
I mean, from my perspective, I invite, everyone who is listening to this podcast, they can connect with us. We have global data center, which is going to be completed by end of this year, 2 in Americas, 2 in Europe, 2 in India, right? We invite them to come over. They're all built in the colo facilities. Have a look at them, how we build them, how we operate them, because I think the best proof is in the pudding. You just go and see it.
There's nothing like having a real visual and walking through the man trap with the access control and so forth. So I totally agree.
Yeah.
On the product side, Mike, where should people learn more?
Nokia.com. I mean, we've got everything that we're doing from a portfolio perspective. We've got case studies. We've got other customers that are doing the same thing, to get you a feel for not just what we write about, but what people are actually experiencing.
Well, thank you both, Mike, Pushpendra, very much for being here. We're going to have some fun later this week, maybe doing a little bit of different version of this on the stage, but I'm really looking forward to that. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. And if you have feedback, please either hit me on LinkedIn via DM or go to packetpushers.net/feedback. I'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Total Network Operations.